White North Report. I'm your host, Roman DSLV. Going to be looking at the coronavirus today. Just because it's in the news, I had something else all lined up and ready to go, but the story is getting bigger and bigger, and it deserves a look into. So what we're looking at is CBC News, Canada's first presumptive case of the coronavirus. It's been found in Toronto. Man in his 50s traveled from China to Toronto on January 22nd and became quite ill within a day of arriving. Now, supposedly this virus is a 2-week incubation period, so you don't actually show symptoms right away, but then you start feeling ill. It's like a flu, but then it becomes more and more problematic, especially if you're an older person. It doesn't seem to affect kids or healthy young people, but that could change. Anyway, that was on January 22nd. China first confirmed this virus back on December 30th. It's probably been going on a lot longer than that. So we do know that it's already in Canada, and the number of infections worldwide has now surpassed 1,900 cases. So on January 27th, according to the CBC, China reported 25 more coronavirus deaths as Germany reports its first case. So the death toll in China rises to at least 106. So already it's in Germany. We know it's in the United States already. France, there's been some cases in Taiwan. So we know that it moves around pretty fast. And why does it move around fast? Because people travel more and more these days. Wuhan is a city of about 11 million people. The place where it originated from is right next to a train station, so it's easy to move around. The start of the Chinese New Year, it's a mass migration of people moving from place to place to place. So a lot of Chinese are trying to get family homes to see family and hang out with them. So that's how it's spreading, because people are just moving around too much. The Chinese government failed to recognize this for what it was and have proper lockdown procedures. I saw on YouTube that one guy heard that there was going to be a quarantine in Wuhan, so he decided to get out of Dodge. And he did. He got it on a train ticket before the quarantine went into effect, and he wasn't alone. There was a lot of other people there too. Already the Chinese government failed to properly install a quarantine. As of January 28th, the death toll in China rises to 106 as the U.S. plans evacuation from Wuhan. I haven't seen anything what Canada plans to do. I don't think we have a lot of Canadians left in China, except because of the recent diplomatic row we have with them. If there are any Canadians, still advise them to check into the nearest embassy or consulate, make sure that they're okay before sending them home, and then having them checked again when they get home. The airport should have a quarantine system, and definitely should restrict flights coming from China. Now you can see here, there's a spread of all the cases. One thing you gotta know about the Chinese Communist Party is they're not going to tell you how bad it really is. There's been a lot of things going on the internet, a lot of fake information, a lot of real information. The Chinese Communist Party is censoring a lot of stuff that does get out as much as possible. You gotta remember, in China, they don't have access to Twitter or Facebook. They do have WeChat and Weibo, I think it's called. And Chinese censors are scrubbing as much as they can as soon as it pops up. Things are on there for a second, then they get scrubbed off. Good source to check out would be a guy named Serpentsa Z and Lawai87. They do a podcast of their own plus ADV China. They're a pretty good source for information, because they're married to Chinese nationals and they still have family over there. CC has already reached Taipei, Taiwan. There's a case in Cambodia, a case in Thailand. South Korea's got a couple of cases. North Korea has already shut their border down, which is no surprise. They only have a couple of bridges over further out. Nepal has a case, as does Sri Lanka, Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, Australia, France, Germany, and there's even a couple of reported cases in Africa. I'm not sure which country that is. It's not Cameroon, is it? The Ivory Coast. So in Canada, there's Toronto and Vancouver. In the US, it looks like Chicago with LA. And that's about it. But the epicenter is definitely in China. Now they're saying this comes from a wet market in China, in Wuhan. When you go to a wet market in China, this is what it's going to look like. There's going to be people not wearing any gloves, not really wearing gloves, not wearing a mask. There's a lot of meat products, cut and uncut. So there's a lot of animals floating around, plus a lot of meat, because it's a live market. A lot of things like chickens especially, they'll just cut it right there for you. Cut and pluck it right there for you. Fish, it's already out there. Wuhan's not near a coast, so the fish are all imported in from the coastline every day. Tons and tons of fish. There'll be lots of pork, and there's really no sanitation there. What they do at the end of the day is they hose all the blood off the street down a drain. That's why it's called a wet market. Now this picture here, this is mostly from winter. You can see the carcasses just hanging. In the summer, think about it. Wuhan, it gets very hot in the summer, and there will be a lot of flies, a lot of other bugs, all sorts of fun stuff. So it's no surprise that this actually happened. unfortunately. Things like this are bound to happen. Now, I've been to a wet market in Busan, South Korea. They got a pretty big one. The smell just about knocked me out. But it was one of those things you do, hey, go check it out. It's in the guidebook. And I've also been to one in Shanghai and a bunch of other little ones in Korea. So it's nothing I haven't seen before. You do see, in the one in China, I guess you do see a lot of exotic animals. The one in Korea I went to, I saw a couple of dogs hanging off hooks. The one I saw in Shanghai, there wasn't too much that was out of the norm. Saw some dogs, a lot of pigs, chickens, lots of fish, and a lot of other little bugs. Now, I did a video about this not too long ago, about the Chinese scientist who got arrested in Winnipeg. I did this back in July. A Chinese scientist was arrested, sending reports back to China. And people are saying that Chinese scientists stole the coronavirus from a Winnipeg lab. Probably not true. The Winnipeg lab would not be creating a virus. Our Winnipeg lab basically is looking at viruses to find cures. That's how it works with us. So that is definitely just a conspiracy theory. Now, our health minister back in January 23rd says that the health risk is low for Canadians of getting coronavirus. But then again, we're not exactly restricting travel from China. So it could spread even more. I don't think it will. I think it'll eventually die out. And here's hoping it does. Now, China was reporting 27 cases in Wuhan on December 31st. Now, to me, this is a little far-fetched because the Communist Party will always try and protect itself from the top all the way down to the bottom. Officials in Wuhan were downplaying this new virus, trying to claim that it's not as bad as everyone thinks, when the reality is it's gotten a lot worse, and they no longer keep it secret. This is how the Chinese Communist Party works. It's the same thing that happened with SARS. They downplayed it, gave a best case scenario instead of having a worst case scenario and letting people know what exactly it is. This is just typical Communist Party bullshit. They're lying to their people, and the people know. It's getting out. The information is getting out there slow, and it doesn't make them look good. I think the first cases were reported on December 25th. And if it's not that bad, then why? China is set to build 4 new hospitals that each have around 1,000 beds each. So 4,000 beds. And they're going to build these things in less than 2 weeks. I don't know about you, but a hospital built in 2 weeks doesn't sound too structurally secure or well built. Usually a hospital will take years to build. But if you need a quick one, I guess this will work. A field hospital would be much better. They're building 4 of these. Wuhan is a big city of 11 million people. It actually has 49,000 ICU units, which should surely be able to handle something like this if what they say is true, that it's not. But obviously they're going to build these things, get more ICU units, and the city of Wuhan, like I said, has been quarantined. As of now, 50 million Chinese citizens have been under quarantine in more and more regions, and we'll see how this plays out. So what can Canada do? Canada can simply restrict travel to and from China, quarantine all flights coming into China, stop all mail shipments coming from China, because a lot of exotic stuff does come to the border. But I'm pretty confident that our health officials, if for the case we have in Toronto and Vancouver, I'm pretty sure our health officials have everything under control. And if there are more cases, then they're prepared to react. The government needs to react better to China. China was hiding this. It doesn't make them look good. Punish them for this. You know, we have the Winter Olympics coming in 2022. Do we really want to send people to China when you have things like this happening? Be a good time to boycott the Olympics. But anyway, that's all I have for the coronavirus. I'm not going to dwell too much on it. It's a terrible thing. Hope it dies out soon, and it doesn't get any worse than it is. You know what you guys think in the comment section. Until next time, I'm Roman Daisel. I'm out of here.
Dance after curfew. Dance after curfew.